don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. So.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy, and this is the week in culture. We got a lot to get to today, this week. As always, because I do this at the end of the week, I'm usually like not the first one to the party, but I'm fashionably late. But I did bring the best gifts, the best booze, the best snacks, hors d'oeuvres, whatever, main course. So
you're the guy, man.
I tried to be. I just can't be like here all the time because I do so much other stuff. But yeah, hi, John. How are you doing?
Oh, I am awesome as always. Actually, even a little bit better than usual. I have started a campaign for fuck YouTube and the Rumble Revolution, and seemingly had some pretty good success. I was dovetailing with Hypnotic yesterday, getting himself banned for a week from making video content for YouTube. And so he ended up having a Rumble exclusive, and since Toasty and I were already over there, and we know that Toasty got demonetized because of a coordinated mass reporting campaign, seems more than likely that the same people are at play here. And he got himself reported for the "Celebrate Our Differences" song. That's like 20, 30 years old now, and but it's on every single one of his videos, right? And so I was pointing out to everybody, it's like they're going after him for something like that that's been there this long. This is like he can't. If he comes back and he's got the 90 days and it doesn't get removed, then he has to basically go and scrub every single one of his videos of that piece of content, because they can give you the exact same strike for the exact same thing over and over again, even if it's for older, because he's been using it this entire time.
Well,
so
what it means is they're not really going after him for the song.
Right.
They're going after him for some other reason, and they're using this as
leaning.
Yeah, it's like digging up old tweets that you made, in order to like get you fired or whatever. This is not a new tactic. It's just now your experience. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years, and over at Honey Badger Brigade, we've been dealing with shit like that ever since we started. Like, it's been something. We're demonetized. We lose subscribers when we upload. We go through all this other stuff, and yeah, we've been on Rumble for a couple of years now. And I'm with you. I want to tell everybody, if you're not like, I got one person, no, not even one, because it's me. I'm streaming on Rumble right now, and the channel's the same, Honey Badger Arcade. You guys could be hanging out in the Rumble chat. Help Rumble become a thing. Like,
it's far better. You get more for your money. YouTube basically exploits not only the creators but also the audience, and so they make things try to be as restrictive as possible, because they're not really about creativity. They're about ad revenues. They're about it's Google, right? And so like I don't give two shits about any of us, but over at Rumble, it is a platform that if you're creative and you want to actually be creative, you'll be rewarded for being creative. And so, it's non-restrictive. Rather than having to deal with watch hours, of all these other people, it's about you as a creator streaming 30 hours a month, getting 100 followers to your channel, and you have to pay for the premium account. So that's your barrier of access, is like it's $10 a month or $100 a year for a premium account. And if you aren't willing to invest in yourself, to invest in your business as a creative creator, or to actually enhance your creativity and everything like that, then this is just a hobby for you, and so like looking at that, Toasty and I, we completely switched the way that we do the show in real time, basically over the course of the last few days, and we've been averaging over $100 a day in monetization Rumble rants, which you're automatically monetized too when you operate over on Rumble. You don't have to like go through all these hoops just to get to the point to where you're relying on an audience, and then the creative program is actually rewarding, and it rewards you for just being there and being creative, whether or not like you're getting mass views. As long as you have a quality audience, that's what matters. And so that, I think, is the reason why I spent like 2 hours yesterday along with Toasty at the beginning of her show, and I was just basically going off like I don't know. Hypnotic described me as a general going to war, but I was basically given like a revival, like an old minister, like in a tent, just telling people like, how like I'm not telling you what you want to hear, but I'm telling you what you need to know. And it just, it was so I'm ecstatic. I'm elated. I got a couple hours of sleep finally. And
well, we definitely have a lot to get to, but I'll last word about Rumble is if I am on Rumble, please consider following me on Rumble. I know it's hard to like change habits because YouTube is something we're so used to, but I think it's totally worth it. Dan Bongino, who was a political commentator that used to regularly appear on Fox News, for example, he started a Rumble account. He just left YouTube altogether and was a regular on there, and he blew it up, and it's massive now. Tim Pool is there, Viva Fry is there, so many content creators, Dr. Disrespect, they're all on Rumble, so why not? Let's just let's at least make it less easy for YouTube to be like the only gang in town.
It's like living in a Walmart town. I'd much rather, and I said as much to somebody, is I'd much rather be small business operating on my creativity than be a serf, in service to some large techno-feudal, lord in the control state. And that is Google, that is YouTube. Yeah. So what you might do, if you haven't already, is pin a link to the Rumble version of the show to the top of the chat would be the best suggestion I'd give. And then we can just always mention to people, because that's what we've been doing over on Toasty's channel, which I want to say hi for Toasty. Hola, chica. It's always good to see you. And there's Furious Dan there in our chat as well.
Yeah, I just sent it over
all the time.
So if you guys want to, but let's get into it because we got a lot to cover today. So first, I wanted to give a shout out to the Jamcast guys over at It's Base. They have announced the theme for their next game jam. This is the Spring Jam, and the theme is Get Your Ass to Mars. It's called the Red Planet. That's what they're calling it. And the game jam is basically like a short contest for indie developers to try and throw a game together in like 2 weeks. And there will be prizes. We're going to have, judges on. I believe that at least I'm hoping to be involved because I was before kind of like as a host. Right. I know for sure there's going to be Ian Crossling, who is one of the, he's like part of the Tim Cast group, the Tim Pool group there, and Andy Pants Gaming, who has a pretty big channel where he talks a lot about the problems with woke games and stuff. And that's it for now. So there's definitely going to be another judge, and I'm going to be involved. But yeah, please check out the It's Based. Just go to itch.io. I'll put a link in the description. Basically, if you look up It's Based on Google, you'll find it right away. Hi, Toasty with the Mosty in the Rumble chat. What is up? I'm highlighting your comment right now. Looks like you put in some of this action here, some Trump action. Problematic. Yeah. What's up? Okay. So anyway, let us now get into the stories. We have a lot to cover, so let's begin. But yeah, shout out to the It's Based Jam guys. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. So Nintendo Direct happened, and I honestly got to tell you, I wasn't paying like super attention to it, but I did notice a conversation around a few things, like some of the new releases, which we might look at, later on during the cake portion if we have time. But there was a big discussion about like price points. So let's look at this article from Mobile Syrup that discusses everything that happened in the what?
Oh, I'm just thinking back to this direct. Like I watched it again last night when Hypno was covering. It is something. It is something else. Like the DEI is not too high on on the list of things, but it's more about globalist driven corporate fuckery. But continue. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So the only thing I heard about it was something about the price points being high,
very high
for the games. And I think that was the thing that stood out. But right here it just sort of breaks down all the games that are coming out. But one of the things that I heard about was that the games, they're talking about the prices for the games are going to be like $80, and that the console, the Switch 2, was announced.
Yeah.
And the Switch 2 is going to be, well, I don't know if we have a definite price on that.
Oh, yeah, we do. Well, we did. So here's the thing, like, the price is, and I almost, for today's thumbnail, to be honest, I almost used the Drake meme of like the no and showing like the old, Xbox One. Remember when Xbox One came out with the game discs weren't going to be game discs; they were just going to be authentication discs. Right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then like I was going to do the other image of like the point, and that's the one. And because Nintendo's doing the same thing with their physical copies, they're making an authentication token cartridge, and you still have to download it digitally, and so all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's $80 for their premium, right? They're doing like dynamic pricing kind of thing, and so for Super Mario Kart Worlds or whatever, Mario Kart World, either way.
Super Mario Kart World.
Yeah, whatever. It's like the 9th one, so they don't want to use the number 9 because it's bad luck. So, and they're choking on their hubris. But so they want to like nudge people to get the digital game because it's $90 for the physical copy plus tax, of course. So when people are like, "Oh, Grand Theft Auto is not going to be $100," bullshit. Nintendo, the good guys, quote unquote, is putting out a game for $90 where most places have like 10% sales tax. At least that's $100 game right there to buy the physical copy, just so you can do an authentication download code to still end up with a digital copy. So you're not, we are well on the way to $100 games if we don't actually, do something to rise against this. But the price model was shown to be $449.99, which is a $150 increase off of the original price of the Switch when it debuted. And then and then everybody said way too expensive. And so they're like, well, we're changing the price. Now they're saying it's going to cost more because of inflation. This is not how you go about doing this shit.
They're gonna blame the tariffs or something.
Right. That's exactly what they're doing. And I said, unless they're going to try to like galaxy brain this shit and say, you know what, guys, we're going to take the hit for you. So because of inflation, because of the tariffs, we're going to do you a solid and lower the price so that it's only $450. So they can pretend to be the good guys when they're still doing this whole fucking thing as like, like a profiteering model. It's crazy. Oh, we got a dollar here from Dan.
Yeah. I got a couple of Rumble rants from Furious Dan. Thank you, Furious Dan. He gives us one and says, we're going to rise on Rumble. And then he gives us another one and says, fuck YouTube, aka ScrewTube. That's what Dan Bongino called it. He called them ScrewTube, and he left them right away. And he built an audience, and it was so big. Now he left, and he gave his show, which was called the Dan Bongino Show. Now it's just called Vince because the guy who took over is this guy named Vince, who is an old friend of his. They're both Italians. And now Dan Bongino is the deputy director of the FBI. Right. So I'm just saying, if we can make this Rumble thing happen, I could end up working for the government. Wouldn't that be based? Toasty with the Mosi 69 gives us $2 and says, let's support each other to transitioning to Rumble. # Rumble Revolution. 100%. 100%. Like I would be elated if I can do all of my content on Rumble. And that's what I've been pushing for with my other channel too, even though I don't run that channel. I'm always saying we got to push the Rumble more. But yeah, I would be absolutely elated to do that. So I'm with you on that. And I agree. We should be doing that. So I appreciate you guys hanging out in the Rumble chat. And yeah, so anyway, back to this. So I didn't like, at the end of the day, this is the thing with Nintendo. Like, we still live in a society where we can choose what we spend our money on. So getting like bent out of shape about it is it's a little bit silly because you can just not buy the stuff. But if you just have to have your new Metroid and you have to have your new Legend of Zelda and you have to have your new Mario thing, then I guess you're just going to end up spending your money. But this is like, you know, the at the end of the day, you get to make the choice, and I'm choosing not to. Like, that's why I didn't even know that this had happened, because like you know, it's like a part of me that like, oh yeah, I kind of miss the Nintendo stuff. But
nostalgia's a hell of a drug, you know?
Yeah, it is. And it's like the dark side of wisdom. Like, wisdom is learning from the past. You know, nostalgia is addiction to the past.
Yeah.
So like, and I think that there's a place, you know, there's a way to like indulge in some nostalgia without it being harmful. But I think that this could be an issue. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting too is because people are crying about $80 games, but like, you know, when the Super Nintendo Entertainment System was out, the Super NES in the early 90s.
Yeah, these are very different things.
Games were $75. No, I know, but I'm saying games are already $75.
Oh, I know.
The problem isn't the price, even though that is, and that's $75 in 1991 money. Right. You know, like like that's different than $75 today. Because I remember with taxes in Chicago, if I bought a cartridge for the Super NES, like if I bought Street Fighter 2, it was 76 something. It was like 76 something, 76.50 or something with tax, right? For a game. Now, today people would lose their minds about that, because I remember when they would whine about a game being $50, and I was like, well, that sounds actually a lot better than a Super NES title, or even a Sega Genesis one, which was maybe like $10 less. But I'm not saying that to be dismissive. I'm saying that to sort of point out that, like, you know, this isn't that drastic of a change. The big issue is not the price. The big issue is that you're not paying for a product. You're paying for a
motivation
license
behind that price, I would say.
Well, you're paying for the license to borrow the product.
Right.
Leasing it. You're not buying it.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is like in the 1980s, you got a hard cartridge with, like, you know, actual like man hours put into it and all this kind of stuff. And so like there was time well spent to get that larger amount of money from you, right? Where and it was a much smaller industry at that point in time. And so, you know, the scale of industry, as you go wider, you know, and get more people, you can bring your costs down and still, you know, make more profit. Like when Toasty and I moved over here to Rumble, we said, you know what? We do a $100 extension. We do a $200 bra stream. We used to do a $300 eyelash dance. But when we got over here, we said, you know, let's give people a value incentive for coming and join us on Rumble, where they can do the super chats, or the Rumble rats rather, and all this kind of stuff. And so we decided to drop the price down to $250, just to make it more accessible, because, you know, that's our way of giving back, to try, like, and so if you want to like enhance the value of something, sometimes you actually have to make a little bit less initially so that you can make a lot more in the long term. And so like Nintendo pulling this card right now is them saying, we don't want to have a big audience. We just want to have a paying audience, you know? So it's
isn't Nintendo supposed to be one of the good guys too?
Well,
like, weren't they like
right. Well,
not like EA or Ubisoft or you know, Activision, like Microsoft, Sony.
I would suggest everybody when you get a chance, go watch Real Life Fake Wizard's most recent video about this, where he suggests that, you know, because I was comparing it to, like, you know, the Disney people, the ones that Disney could do no wrong. They go to the theme parks and do all this stuff. And so he was basically saying, you know, who knew that Nintendo was actually the final end boss of, you know, like greed-based corporatism, pretending and masquerading to be all virtuous and all this kind of stuff. Because this is the mask off moment, you know, and so Nintendo are not the good guys, and they probably most likely never were, because they keep going through this cycle of, they get, you know, they start to, you know, feel really, you know, oh, we've succeeded, we can do whatever, and they start feeling their oats, and they do something stupid, You know, when we went from when the DS handheld to the 3DS handheld, it was similar to this. When we went from the Wii to the Wii U, it was similar to this. You know, they constantly keep doing this thing where, like, you know, they build themselves up really high and then they make this huge fucking pratfall. And this thing reminds me, this is more Xbone 2 than it is Switch 2, you know, in terms of just the way that they're handling the situation. Because I watched the direct last night, watching along on Hypno's channel. Since he's doing an exclusive week here on Rumble, and we did a raid over to his show and everything like that. And so, like, they've got this camera, like that front, that top loaded USB. Everybody was like, "Ooh, does that mean there's going to be a second screen attachment?" No, it means that they have a button on there called the C button. It's the cash button, because like they've paywalled a whole bunch of stuff. And so, like, they're going to give you camera access for like the first year. If you buy in, you can use this camera for free. But then one day next year, out of nowhere, after you've gotten used to using it, then they're going to hit you up for money. You know, like, they're doing every underhanded kind of like shitball scheming tactic that one can go about to just completely just try to profiteer. I have no problem with people profiting and prospering and doing good business. But if you're a profiteer, get fucked, you know? And that's my problem with YouTube as a, you know, as an organization, because it, as I said, it is exploitative of the audience, of the creators, of everyone. Whereas here on Rumble, it's all about creativity and, you know, actually, you know, trying to do what it can to give the audience more interesting things to do. Like, you know, the mobile GIFs, the emojis that are actually gift based, you know, in the chat and things like that. Like, you have a lot more fun. It's colorful, you know. This is corporate Nintendo at its worst, you know, ultimately. And there's so many little nitpicky this and that. It's like, there's some things where you're kind of like, nah. At best, it was meh. But at worst, it was, wow, these guys have really lost the plot and are just so focused on just trying to capitalize on their fan base and their users as much as possible, and hoping that they're just, you know, just hypnotized and willing to go along with anything. It is and then there's also the DEI game, which we'll touch on later. But
well, let's back up for a second, because there's something I want to talk a little bit about. Like, okay, why is Nintendo going in this direction? And I know that to just say they're greedy or whatever, I think that's a little bit oversimplified, because I'm trying to let's look at the bigger gaming landscape right now. Okay, so like right now, I think we're living in a time where physical media is disappearing. Okay, like getting like a disc or a cartridge or a card, that, like, what I'm saying, like, that's almost non-existent. What I mean is that, right, let's set aside the Switch 2 for a second. Set aside Nintendo Direct for a second. Let's look at where we were just before these announcements came. All right, so you could get your games for a couple of consoles, the Switch, the Xbox Series X, whatever they're on right now, the PS4, PS5, and like Steam, GOG, Epic Game Store, etc. Right. Now, when you buy those games, for a long time, people were getting physical media. It was cartridges on the Atari, and then later we were able to put it on discs, like, you know, CD-ROMs, and then DVD-ROMs, and then Blu-ray ROMs, or whatever they called them towards the end there. And there was lots of physical media that you could get, right? Like, I have a whole wall of games on discs and some cartridges and stuff like that. But that's gone now, basically. I mean, like, I think there are still some developers that make games that you can get on a disc. But even then, there appears to be a restriction on access. So, for example, I have some PlayStation 4 games, and I can like pop the disc into my console, but if my console isn't connected to the internet, then I can't access the game, because it's showing that I no longer, like, my account is no longer connected to the game.
Right.
So
the game is not actually the game. It's an authentication key. It's a physical token.
Right. So what I'm saying is that what it seems to me is that what Nintendo is doing is just a response to the direction we were already heading in. Because when I read the instructions on this, on how to like use this, and look, this is not,
and their response is following in line. That's the issue for me, you know, because that's what I mean by they're being profiteering is They're not being the innovative Nintendo they're supposed to be.
No, of course, but I'm not making a claim about anyone's intentions or making a moral judgment. I'm looking at like where are things now and where they're going. So it says here how it works. Insert the game key card into the system. Then it says the game itself does not include the game is not included on the game key card. So you'll have to download it before you can play. When you insert the game key card, further instructions will be displayed on the home menu. Please follow the instructions to download the game. Please note, to download the game, you must have enough free space in your Nintendo Switch 2 system memory or micro SD express card. The amount of free space required is indicated on the game key card packaging. Step 3, play the game. Once the game is downloaded, you're ready to play. An internet connection is only required when you launch the game for the first time. After this, the game can be started even without an internet connection. However, like regular physical software, the game keycard must be inserted into the system in order to play the game.
Right. So by getting the physical copy, you actually shortchange yourself by making, because if you buy the digital, you never have to, because if you get these physical keys ostensibly, then you have to walk around with a whole bunch of physical keys that are completely pointless because you still have to, go through the authentication process. So this is nudging, this is them trying to say, oh, we're giving you the benefit of going digital. And that's my issue with it, is this is a way to kill off secondhand sales because they want to make sure that everybody pays the price that Nintendo sets. And that's what I mean by them being profiteers here.
No, I get it. What I'm asking the question, I'm proposing this to the audience. Okay. So it looks like the direction that gaming is headed right now, and I'm not saying this is a preordained or like it's destiny, and there's nothing we can do about it, but it looks like Nintendo is trying to respond or is responding to like what everyone else is already doing, and they're trying to like find a way to do it in their own way. Like the key thing that stood out for me is they said an internet connection is only required when you launch the game for the first time. After this, the game can be started even without an internet connection. But like right now, if I don't have Steam, like if I'm offline, I can't play any of my Steam games. And Steam is like, no, you can't. Yeah. I don't think you can.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, there are like my Steam Deck. I install games to the Steam Deck, and if I'm not online, I can totally. My Steam Deck is full of games. There's no authentication. Yes.
Even when you're not online, you have to be logged into Steam, and you don't have to be logged into Steam to play.
No, I load my games onto my Steam Deck, and they just work. That's it.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like that. This is the worst of that. And so like, and so I think at the end of this Nintendo Direct, Valve more than anybody is the one who has to be going, yes, this is so good for us. Because Nintendo's sitting here like setting up all their digital download stores, and they're never going to put stuff on sale ever, And if I want to like get like 5 to 10 games for the cost of what one Nintendo game is going to be, I can do that every few months. They constantly have sales over at Steam, constantly, and that's not something that you see from the console end of the game industry, and I don't see that changing. So do you have to have online access for certain games? Like if I were to play Death Stranding on my Steam Deck, then yes. But if I just go and just take my Steam Deck with me and I don't have an internet connection, all the games that I've loaded to the hard drive or my SD card on there, they all work. And if I want to have the back catalog of say the entire Nintendo, life systems throughout, say like I want the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. I also want to get a Genesis, PlayStation games, all that kind of stuff. I can load those on that Steam Deck too, run EmuDeck, and I've got like all that stuff, and I don't have to pay a monthly service charge or a yearly service charge or anything like that for access. And it's not like Netflix where it's curated and you only get like, these so many games out of the 1,000 that could be there, because Nintendo, much like anybody else, is not going to put all the games on an access server because they don't want to pay server fees for stuff that's not getting played. Sure. So they're only going to curate certain things. And so like there is, it's like, it's the sizzle, not the steak, right? And so they're selling the experience, the lifestyle experience, rather than the actual reality. And the actual reality is far more locked down, draconian kind of stuff, Whereas with a Steam Deck, it's open source, it's awesome. You know, that's why I called my channel Awesome Deck when it first began. Because like it's so astoundingly cool what you can do with the thing. And even though this is also a digital platform system, right? It's a digital platform that actually encourages you to like, you know, like feel like you actually have ownership over your stuff because you're authenticated into your Steam account when you log in. And so that's why you don't have to be constantly online. You could argue to some degree it's kind of doing that, but you can install games to your Steam library that aren't through the Steam store tons of ways, you know, and so it's a completely different kind of situation, and it does not require you to be online to use a Steam Deck at all.
All right. Well, I didn't know that. I guess it has an offline mode that you have to turn on if you're on your PC. What about game like services like GOG or
GOG games can play on their Heroic. There's a Heroic launcher, and there's also Lutris launcher. And because it's an open source Linux-based platform, I'm actually right now, for people who don't know, I'm streaming. I'm coming to you live on this show from my Steam Deck. I have moved over entirely to be a content creator that operates off of a Steam Deck. So when I say that this thing is a wonderful piece of equipment that you can get so much more value out of, you know, than anything else, I'm not joking. I'm going to start my Awesome Deck series again. That's why I'm trying to get to 100 followers on, you know, my Rumble, so that I can actually, you know, when I start making content again, I'm going to re-debut basically over on Rumble, and then I'll just be putting like VOD playbacks and whatnot on YouTube, because I'm abandoning YouTube. Fuck YouTube. I'm leading this Rumble revolution, you know, from nowhere. Just like, you know, like when I started an FFS Discord and got all these YouTube creators together in one place, and I've got like no following myself. If you have the will, if you have the spirit, if you build it, they will come, as they say, you know. And so I'm very much on the idea that, like, with my passion and energy behind trying to be supportive of Rumble, I've put my money where my mouth is. And so, like, I'm trying to do what I can to actually, you know, give people an opportunity to, you know, encounter this space as something that you're not getting, you know, on YouTube. And even if you are getting on YouTube, it's all going to be based around the idea of, all right, well, you're getting like a taste of it. But if you actually want the full experience, go check out the Rumble thing, because that's going to be far more, you know, beneficial to you in the long term. But yeah, that's the way that I look at this situation. Is Nintendo is showing its hand, and it's decided that it's just ready to profiteer. You know, it's done being like even their innovations are not innovations. A webcam that costs me an extra $50 plus a monthly service charge to use after they get rid of the initial kind of freebie time and all this kind of stuff. I mean, if you try to get all the kit and parcel and everything like that comes with the new system on the day that it comes out, you'd be spending up to $2,000 basically on day one. Like, this is not a cheap system, you know, and not to say that it doesn't have like nice little technical this and that's, but if you're somebody who actually is looking for the value of your money in the system that you're looking to invest in, I told so many parents last night, get a Steam Deck. It's a strong, durable system. Your kids, you know, like they'll be able to grow with their library. They'll be able to have it forever. Like, you know, like it's a better fundamental value. It may not have all that, you know, nostalgia attachment to it that you have for a Nintendo system, but there are ways to go and have even that included. You can download EmuDeck because, again, it's running Linux, so it's open source software. It has access to a wide variety of, you know, capabilities that it wasn't initially, you know, built in with. But that's the whole thing. Is the idea is you own it, it's yours. Do with it what you're going to do with it. If you want to take Linux off it, install Windows on it, you know, it's a PC. You know, it's a PC that just looks like a handheld. So it operates in a very unique way that is just far better than the, you know, what you're getting from YouTube. Like, in terms of, like, you know, like the screen specs and all this kind of stuff, that's all well and good, but I really don't give two shits all that much ultimately at the end of the day about how shiny something is. I want to know how immersive it is, how, you know, how much of a flow state, how much of like a reward I'm going to get for being, you know, involved with it's going to be. And I don't feel that with the Nintendo, honestly, since the Wii was when I got off that train. And so I don't sit here and try to tell people don't buy it. You know, if you want to and you're convinced and you're, you know, just so hard in the paint that you're gonna, you know, do everything you can to like tell everybody how much you love this thing and nobody can say anything against it for you, fine, by all means, have at it, have fun. I wish you nothing but the best. But for me, where I can try to like look at this with some level of objectivity and discernment, it's not worth the buy-in, because what you're getting is just a whole bunch of paywalls that you're, you know, ultimately going to have to mediate and manage more than anything.
Yeah, well, it looks like, yeah, it's not it's I did you know, I didn't look into this too much, but it seems like it's mostly a bit of a underwhelming presentation.
Yeah, it is very underwhelming.
It might. Okay, so here's the thing. I think Nintendo's audience. I'm thinking about Nintendo's audience has always been well, for a while it's been slightly different from the standard console like PlayStation, Xbox, or PC audience. Which it's almost like there's three audiences, right? So you have like the PC people who have like a very specific thing that they want on their game, or at least you did historically. Then you had your console people that were into the Xbox and the PlayStation, of which there was a lot of overlap with like some exclusives on both platforms. And then you had the Nintendo people that were more, it was for a long time aimed at, you know, like younger audiences and families. And when Nintendo originally tried to break out or at least try to compete at the level that the PlayStation and the Xbox were at, they made the GameCube, which was actually a more powerful console than the PS2 and the Xbox. But the GameCube was not able to compete. It ended up dying because even though it was a more powerful system, it's actually where Resident Evil 4 launched originally. It just wasn't able to compete at that level, and they got away from their like original sort of, you know, target, right? And then the Wii came out after that, and it blew up. Like everyone had a Wii in their house, but it was aimed at the super casuals, right? Kids, parents, old people, families, that kind of thing. And so the Wii blew up, and then from there, I think that they've been trying to like stay in that lane. And with the Switch, they kind of like moved a little bit into that more competitive arena because there were people that were like, well, look, you know, we like the Nintendo games, but we want games that are gonna be like running this stuff that's on like the high-end PCs and the high-end consoles like the PlayStation 4 and 5 and the Xbox One and Series X. And so I think Nintendo is trying to figure out where it fits in, and it's sort of losing the plot because I think that the young people are changing too. Like they do a lot of their gaming. First of all, during COVID, a lot of people built PCs, and so like consoles in general were hurt. Like this last generation was the first generation that I didn't buy any new consoles. I didn't get a PlayStation 5. I didn't get whatever the Xbox was. I didn't get a Nintendo Switch. I wasn't interested. I figured I still have my old consoles and I could game on my PC now because I had like a decent PC. And I think a lot of people were building PCs during COVID. So you have like a surge in PC player base, which is why Steam is like the talk of the town, which is likely why Steam also made the Steam Deck, or at least like started to really like invest in it more, because now they have an opportunity to build their own platform. Right. And yeah, the Wii U was just an evolution of the Wii. I'm just saying that it was still in the same boat. Somebody mentioned
It's like the 3DS advancing from the 2D.
Yeah, it's like it's like the Game Boy Advance and the 3DS, right? Like, but I think that I'm looking at trying to see like all of the factors that were at play here, and I think Nintendo is scrambling to like adapt, because even though they do have like some, you know, obvious like fan favorite franchises that are probably amongst the most iconic in all of video game history, they're losing their audience because like the young people are not, first of all, I don't even know that they're gaming as much as like, you know, like the millennials and the Gen Xers, like the Zoomers. Well, but what they are doing is they're playing like Fortnite and, you know, what's the one with the with the blocky looking people? It's not Minecraft. Minecraft. No, the other one that's got Roblox. You know, like
Roblox.
Yeah, and that's not like that's not Mario. That's not Zelda.
Right.
So that's not Metroid. So like I think that Nintendo is. I think they're in a bad spot, and I don't know that they're going to be able to get out of it. And I think that this is an opportunity for Valve to really rise up.
Yeah.
So I'm and I think they will. I mean, like the Steam OS is going to come out. It's going to be like a thing that maybe normalize. I know that my Windows 10 is basically going to be phased out. Like they're going to stop supporting it, I think, in July of this year. So I'm going to have to change my operating system. And I've heard nothing but terrible, terrible things about Windows 11. So I'm going to probably look into a different OS, which I'd have to learn how to use.
Yeah. Windows 10 and the Steam OS are very comparable in terms of the stuff that they do. My biggest nitpicks when it comes to Steam OS is it doesn't have virtual camera support, and it should just have and maybe that'll change. Like I'm getting a laptop sent to me by one of Toasty's longtime members to help, because how I'm having the hardware issues. Like everybody, I'm here on a phone call. The problematic white guy that you see on the screen, Brian's doing all that work for me. I am literally just an audio call in for the show. So he's sending me some hardware to use, and I'm considering at least putting a dual boot on there to kind of test to see how it works. Because if the laptop has a camera on it, I want to see if it'll recognize it and if I can get that to work. Because right now I only have a few little nitpicks about the Steam OS. And they're not even necessarily about the OS itself. It's more about the way that it is integrated with some pieces of software like OBS, which I love to use because it's a free open source system. I can't currently run virtual cameras for the other shows that I stream on through my Steam Deck because there's no virtual camera support, and so I can't just go and put an image there. So if they could fix that, that would be great. And God, there was something else that I mentioned last night, but it's escaping my mind right at the moment. That's how good and effective it is in so many ways. Is that I have to sit here and think about what is it that I would have to change on here. And right now it's just like the most nitpicky bullshit that is superficial to most people, because most people don't care about having a camera on their gaming system, and that's one of the things that Nintendo was trying to sell during this Nintendo Direct is basically Discord on your game service. And so you sit there and you talk to each other and have a whole bunch of floating heads on your video game screen. And it's just I don't know, it's so
they're trying to keep up
tacky
with
as fuck
trends, and they don't know. I think they're struggling.
They're losing their way.
Yeah, are there any other significant things about the Nintendo Direct that we should you mentioned something about DEI.
If you can find that game, the one that I used for the thumbnail, I believe it's called here it is, Drag and Drive. If you can find
Drag and Drive,
you just have to watch. Find a video clip of it, and
drag is in drag queens.
No. Drag.
Okay.
Murder Ball, the thing handicapped people play, basketball for handies, right? That's what it is. Because how the Switch 2 has those removable hands, the sides of the console come off so that you can have Wonder Joy-Cons basically.
How do you spell it? Drag and Drive.
Drive space X Drive.
Oh, Drive X Drive.
Yeah, Drive X. Yeah. Drive by Drive. Or sorry. Drag by Drive. Drag X. Drag space X.
Man, are we gonna get there somehow?
Sorry.
Okay, Drag X Drive.
I have not gotten enough sleep in the last few days.
Help me out here. I need to know what's going on.
I sent you the thumbnail.
No, it's okay. I know, but I don't know what that is. Okay, that's so right. I haven't been following it.
It's all right.
I have the trailer here.
But you should watch this, and I just want to get your initial reaction upon watching it. Because
all right. Yeah, we're gonna look at
it. It's like a Wii game with motion controls, but for both hands.
Oh, I see. Okay. Hi, yes, please like, share, and follow. Thank you, Toasty. Let's kill YouTube. Let's do it.
Indeed. You might want to mute it.
Why?
Well, actually, you don't have to. Yeah, it's fine.
What are they going to do? Demonetize me?
Very true. Indeed.
Oh, you're in a wheelchair. Oh, yes. Very inclusive. Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's like, but why, right? I mean, it could be far worse, and there are other things. Like there's a Nintendo, there's a Hyrule game where you're girl bossing. You know, Hyrule Warriors and stuff like that.
Warriors, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Link is not there, so you know you're a whole bunch of shield maidens, and so like there's covert wokeness going on, but this is probably the most egregious thing. But it's just like, why this? You know, and it's. Oh, and their tech demo game is not installed on the system. You have to pay for a tech demo. Yeah. Like, there's just so many things about this system that are just like, you went about this in the most profiteering shitbag way possible. I cannot support it.
It's
pretty lame.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Right. And when I say lame, I do mean crippled. That is pretty lame and gay.
I mean, I don't know if it's trying to like be woke. I don't know that it necessarily is, but it certainly is like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, I think look, here's the thing about all this motion control stuff. I don't know why they're trying to make this happen. It's so gimmicky. Like, it's just gimmicky, dude.
Yeah.
You guys remember, what was it the Xbox tried to do with that camera that supposedly like detected all your movements, and it never
used
worked?
30%. Yeah, used 30% of the system's processor, and was basically just in-house surveillance. And that's kind of the thing. Yeah, it's not.
But
like
a friend of mine bought it. He was so excited. He was like, I think there may have been an attempt to do like some Dragon Ball thing on there. I could be remembering this completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. YouTube says, so part tank, part robot. It looks good. I mean, I think it's the Kinect. That's what it was, the Kinect. I was trying to remember what it was called.
Yeah, on the X phone.
That's super gimmicky. Like, all of it's really like the Wii. I was just talking about, like, the Wii blew up, but I think it was a gimmick that did not have lasting power. Like, yeah, you play like Wii Sports, and everyone knows it because, you know, they had like the tennis and the golf and the bowling. Right. And it was great. Like, old people in old folks' homes, I'm sure they play the shit out of it, you know, but it's not something that you can build a lasting franchise product on. So I don't know who the wheelchair basketball game is for. I hope it works out for you guys. Like, if you're into that, it could be fun, but it looks like it's just another gimmick. Like,
right.
You know, well, I even think that VR is like borderline gimmicky. Like, I'm gonna try to play some VR games in the coming months. I'm gonna devote a month to either VR games or like a game, modded games, and make one of them playing the Half-Life VR mod, because I never played Half-Life before, and I think there's a VR mod for it now that I'd like to try out. So if I'm going to play Half-Life the first time, I'm going to do it with the VR mod. That could be interesting. And there are horror games like that one you and I were playing, I believe.
Lethal Company?
No, not
or
Lethal
Content
Company.
Warning.
Content Warning. I think Content Warning has a VR mode in it, and there's a couple of other like kind of horror games that have VR modes. I believe that Resident Evil Village has a VR mod, and Resident Evil 4 has a VR mod. So those could be super fun. But like, yeah, VR is legit. I'm not saying it's not, but it's very niche, and that's the thing. It's an expensive thing to get into, and it can add a lot, but you're talking about something very specific. It's not going to be a substitute for gaming. I think that most gaming is not going to be that.
I think of motion control is kind of like, all right, so like in the 1970s, disco was big, but you know, and so like 20 years ago when the Wii came out, motion controls were big. In the 1990s, you could still have, I suppose, a discotheque and like, you know, play like a whole bunch, but you're not going to get the majority of people to come into your place to disco dance all night in the 1990s, 20 years later. Motion controls have had their time. People don't buy Rock Band games anymore. They're not playing Guitar Hero.
That was a gimmick too. It was fun.
Right. But that was 20 years ago. Yeah. That was 20 years ago, though.
I know. I have a closet full of plastic guitars.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about it. But I will say though, when Rock Band was like the shit, like I had people coming over all the time to play, and that was worth it. That was worth it. But yes, I agree. It's definitely a gimmick.
Its time has come, and it's just it's
in a way like something like VR or motion controls could replace like that kind of experience. Like you want to be like simulating being in a band or something. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a very specific niche, and this game, and look, I'm not shitting on it. Like I said, if you might, it looks cute, but it's not gonna be like a lasting product, you know. Like there's not a lot of sustainability there. But anyway, all right. So, but I do have some. Saltpeter Taffy says I played the hell out of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, best video gaming gimmick ever. Yes. I did a lot of singing on that, a lot.
Yeah.
And I like karaoke games too. I had Karaoke Revolution on the original Xbox, and that was fun. Like these things are, but now like you don't need that. Like you can just get a karaoke like thing on probably in a browser now, right? I'm sure you could. So Rock Band good for anime and gaming cons. Yeah, I did play I went to a convention. It was years ago, and they had Rock Band there, and I did like the shit out of some Pearl Jam. I was there I was belting it out.
Right.
Anyway, so, is there anything else about the Nintendo Direct thing, or
I mean, there's probably a few other things we could get nitpicky on and everything like that. But if we've got other stuff to talk about,
there's a few. We do. But there are a few games.
Nearly an hour. Like,
there's a couple of games that got. Yeah, there's definitely like a couple of games that got announced that I want to look at during the later portion. But anyway, so let us know what you guys think about Nintendo Direct. Is there anything that I did not cover? I want to get your thoughts on that. And
I would say, I mean, I've talked about it. We talked about it over on Will of the Fans the other day. I've talked about a few other places. So I would say check out either the Will of the Fans stuff from earlier this week if you want to get some of my other initial kind of thoughts on it, or go watch Hypno here on Rumble from last night, where he did like a 4-hour live stream, because he goes through the whole Nintendo Direct and just does a reaction video portion to it. So and you'll get, my thoughts are very much in line with the kind of stuff that he's saying on there as well. So,
yeah,
and also give Hypnotic a follow this week, and do everything you can to support him during this week while he's on Rumble, because this is where we have to take the Gamergate conversation if we don't want to lose the ground that we gained over the course of the last year.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to also comment. Somebody in the Rumble chat, Mr. YouTube, said AR. I think AR could be really special. I think that's not a bad idea at all. I think it's about how it's implemented. Like, isn't there like there's some Pokemon game that uses AR, some like phone Pokemon game, right? Where you put your camera in and like
Pokemon Go. Yeah, Pokemon Go.
Yeah, like but I think that AR has a lot of potential. I think that's actually one of the potential advantages of AR. If you have like a good AR headset that maybe is cordless and you can walk around like your own home or your own apartment and have like some experiences, but you're able to see the world, so you're not walking into walls and breaking TVs and shit. So I think AR has a lot of potential. I'd like to see where they could take that. But anyway, maybe brighter people than me will do something interesting and creative with that. So let's move on to the next story. All right.
Yeah.
So Devil May Cry, a very popular game franchise, one of Capcom's most well-known, has been a bit of a subject of controversy because they made an adaptation for Netflix. So Netflix has a new Devil May Cry, and I want to find the clip that was going around now that we mention it. But I'll just give you the rundown. That's the sort of summary of it. So in the games, demons... are you guys familiar with demons as a concept? You know what a demon is? Demons are typically portrayed as, elemental evils, right? Power-hungry entities.
Yeah, hell spawns.
From hell. from the abyss, from Acheron, from Gehenna, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You know, that Dante, the half-demon protagonist of the games, battles with to protect humanity. Their malevolence drives the core conflict, right? They're demons, and he kills demons. That's what he does, okay?
Demons, man, like demons.
Yeah. With Dante's mission rooted in avenging his mother's death and safeguarding the human world from demons from hell. The Netflix adaptation, however, reimagines some demons as sympathetic figures. Refugees fleeing a harsh demon realm, seeking safety in the human world. This shift peaks in episode 6, called The First Circle, you know, like the first circle of hell, where the White Rabbit, the season's antagonist, is revealed to have noble intentions, smuggling demons to Earth to escape oppression, only to turn monstrous after betrayal and loss. Fans have criticized this as a betrayal of the source material's essence.
Don't say.
Yeah, I know. Some posts on X highlight frustration that demons, once, you know, unambiguous threats, like biblical threats to reality, are now framed as misunderstood victims. For instance, the games emphasize humanity's worth through Dante's half-human perspective, with lines like, maybe somewhere out there, even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one, underscoring emotional depth, not demonic redemption. The series' attempt to humanize demons, portraying them as oppressed rather than oppressors, clashes with this, leading some to call it a strange decision that dilutes the franchise's stylish demon-slaying identity. So we basically have a situation where Netflix, in its infinite wisdom, decided that demons from hell should be seen as sympathetic. Now, why am I like pointing this out? Because I mean, you can tell I guess you could, in theory, tell a story that paints a otherwise vilified group of people in a light that is less, like, you know, that is less negative, that is intended to sort of put a twist on things. But this is, you have to look at this as part of a broader pattern that we're seeing, okay? So, like, what did they do in the Rings of Power with the orcs? What did they do with the orcs? You guys remember?
Exactly.
What were you going to say about that?
Oh, well, that's exactly what this was compared to, was like, you know, the orcs that just want to have a family and be, you know, like, be left alone. And yeah, they're basically trying to use them as a cipher for, you know, mass immigration, and how, like, you know, like, only like they're being put upon by these bigots that aren't giving them an opportunity to just, you know, be a loving family. It is hilarious.
Yeah. Norwegian says demons are 99% evil, which is why it was a big deal that Sparta rebelled to save mankind. Yes. Mr. YouTube says in Doom 2, sometimes the good demons would help you and shoot the other evil demons. What is a good demon? I mean, like, okay, I guess like there's another side to this too, which I'm going to get to. It's not just them portraying the demons as refugees, which some people jokingly say, so what you're saying is, you know, like the migrants that are like entering various parts of Europe, like from Muslim countries, you're saying that those are demons. And that's one way to look at it. But I think that what they're trying to do is it's a nudging towards this cultural moral relativism. Okay.
Right.
I'm reminded of the opening act of Baldur's Gate 3. And I know that for a lot of you people that are watching this, Baldur's Gate 3 is probably a sacred cow that I can't criticize.
And I would say to those people, it's not that they're being called, you know, the demons. It's that we look at them as demons, and because we look at them as demons, we're bigoted assholes. Is what they're really trying to spin.
That's what they're trying to say, right? But like in Baldur's Gate 3, in the opening, you would say that first act, right? You are in in the Forgotten Realms, and in a particular area that is occupied by a lot of tieflings. Now, tieflings are a race of people, of humanoids that are part demon, and they're from or part devil in this case, because they sort of like spilled out from the first layer of hell, the first level of hell. If you know your D&D lore, you'd know that in the cosmology, there's like hell, and then there's the abyss. And hell is where the devils are, and the abyss is where the demons are. But it doesn't matter; they're all evil, right? But what they're doing in Baldur's Gate 3, they create this thing where all of the tieflings, even though they're part devil, they're all like just kind of normal people trying to like, figure their stuff out. They're effectively refugees from hell. It's the same plot. And I didn't care for it because I didn't like that they were trying to present goblins as like, sensible. And what I noticed especially with Baldur's Gate 3 is that none of the monsters were aggressive to you, at least in the beginning parts of it, until you did something to them. Like goblins would just talk shit to you, but otherwise would ignore you, and you had to actually like fuck with them before it turns into an encounter. And I'm like, but they're goblins though. They're evil. Like why aren't they? They're just sort of there. Like everything is just relative, man. Like, well, what do you just like? Do you disagree with me torturing this gnome? Well, I guess we're gonna have a disagreement. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense. They're playing it too safe. And they did that with this. What I think they're trying to do ultimately is postmodernize morality itself with these little story choices. And when we accept it, it becomes normalized, and then it becomes impossible to tell the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. And
right.
I think
it's
that
muddying of the waters.
Yeah, you're muddying the waters. Mr. YouTube says, well, angels to some, demons to others, they are the same race, right? Yeah, see, that's that moral relativism. You're referencing Hellraiser. Those creatures, the Cenobites, they're not good people. It's not ambiguous. They're saying there are some people who want to experience hell. That doesn't make them angels, right? So there is like it's hard to like make this known because we're kind of living in a postmodern time where people are always trying to rationalize a kind of equal balance of good and evil as though that is important, right? That like that's important that we have like all sides being presented fairly, when the truth is that there is evil in the world and it exists, and it should be confronted and opposed.
Right.
And I think that's what like the Devil May Cry stories, or any stories that involve,
they want a world without discernment, but a world that's dictated on feelings and the moral relativism, as you were talking about.
Yeah. So I know that this is going to be hard to sell, but like I think that you are going to only see more and more justifications for evil on the basis of standpoint theory and sort of like this postmodern moral relativist view. And
Alyssa Mercanti is one of those. She everything that she does is because she has a moralistic perspective and a viewpoint that everything that she does, the means justify the ends, right? And so like she can sit here and run whisper networks and do all this kind of stupid fucking bullshit, make targeted harassment campaigns, as she would call them, by having people mass report everyone's channels and everything like that, because she finds us to be, a problem, right? And so she engages in the very thing that she's trying to sue someone, for, because she's deflecting and projecting, even though she's the one who actually is now embroiled in like, what seems to be possibly a federal indictment for having a for-pay server set up so they could run a whisper network to actually do their doxing, bullshit and all this kind of stuff. So, like that's what you're getting at. It's like these people, like she wants to be seen as the angel when she's actually the demon, in this situation, in many ways. Cause it's like she, and she's not even like, like people are like, she's not the big bad. People are like, as soon as we get River, everything goes back to being normal. It's like, yeah, you said that about Kim Bel-Air. Neither of them are big bads. They are merely the manifestation of the energy that they feed upon. And so it's this ideological mindset, the capture, and all this stuff that feeds into it that creates them, And so you get rid of them, there's still just going to be another one that slots right into their place. It's just like, you know, when you have a bad coworker who falls on their face enough times that they get pushed out the door, and then the next person in line goes and takes their position. That's what we're dealing with on some of these people, and you know, and they're being treated as though, in their mind, everything they do is justifiable because we're that bad, we're that terrible. But everything they do is, you know, is beyond reproach.
Let's look at the broader pattern. There's a pattern emerging, which I'm trying to like draw attention to. So in Devil May Cry, it's not just that they make the demons, or at least like there's a whole section. And by the way, there were a ton of thought pieces that came out after this episode. And like they're using this to make the case for this moral relativism. So it's not just a story, right? It's not just an element in the story. It's something that was put there on purpose. And then people in the media, in academia, in our celebrity culture, in all of the influencers, they're drawing on that and they're saying, look, this is really important and here's why. So it's not like these things exist in a vacuum. And it's not like these things are not part of a broader pattern. So I'm not going to display it, but I have this article from comic book, is it comic book CBR.com? It's like comic book review or something.
Comic book reviews, I think, but just CBR works at this point in time.
CBR.com, and they said Netflix's Devil May Cry anime has one episode that doesn't fit in, and that's exactly why it's important.
Not only is it happening, but it's good.
Yes. Devil May Cry's demonic refugee storyline is particularly socially relevant. So why are they, and it's not just that, okay? Because this is important. It's not just that. There's another element to this. How did they portray the United States in the show? So the show's depiction of the US has also fueled debate with its overt critique of, quote, American imperialism, Christian nationalism, and militarism. Set in a supposedly early 2000s inspired world, the US government, via the shadowy dark-com agency led by Vice President Baines, voiced by Kevin Conroy, RIP, is shown as a zealous demon-hunting force willing to nuke hell itself, literally in a montage set to Green Day's American Idiot. Baines, a religious fanatic and a cowboy hat-wearing president, embody exaggerated stereotypes of American exceptionalism and post-9/11 paranoia, as noted by showrunner Adi Shankar. So the showrunner of the show, Adi Shankar, modeled the series on this. He did this on purpose. So you have a president. So like the US finds out there's a gateway to hell, finds out it's real, and they're like, we're going to nuke hell. And this guy is saying that's a bad thing. Like if there was a portal to hell that we discovered, why wouldn't we try to destroy the demons? But no, they're saying, no, that's racist. That's racist.
That's Doom.
That's Doom. No, but the Doom guy is racist. Like we need to bring nuance. They're gonna look. If you don't think that they're gonna try to bring nuance to Doom, then you're not paying attention.
Right.
This is like, why are they like? Why is it in all of these? Who are the main villains in Castlevania the series? The Catholic Church.
The one on
Catholic
Netflix?
Church. The Netflix one. It's the church, not Dracula. The church. Who did they make sympathetic? Dracula. How do they do it? Well, they had his girlfriend or wife be a girl boss scientist that gets killed by the bigoted anti-science church, the anti-vaxxers, whatever.
Right.
Like, I know that you're going to say, well, that was in the games. That doesn't matter. That was put there on purpose. Like, this stuff is not happening in a vacuum, and it doesn't happen for no reason. Okay? Like, and it starts with simple things like creating this idea that like good and evil exist as a dual nature of everything, and that it's okay that both things, that you need them both for balance. That's not really true.
Like that dumbass last year is like, the great thing about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It's where you stand.
It just depends on where you're standing. Like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It starts with, here's how it goes, okay? First, you have something that's relatively simple and easy to understand because it's true that there is such a thing as evil and there is such a thing as good, okay? Then you get people who bring in nuance, and they're like, wait a minute, it's nuance. Like, you can't really, it can't be that simple. That's black and white thinking. That's overly simplified. And then they make it nuance, and then you kind of accept it like, yeah, okay. Then they remove the nuance, and they say, actually, what you believed is evil and what we believe is good. Now it's okay for women to kill their babies in the womb. Now it's okay for people to cut off their genitals and pretend to be the opposite gender. And if you have a problem with that, then you're obviously a bigot. Now it's okay for, like, you know, black kids to stab white kids in the heart because they wouldn't give up their seat.
Right.
You know,
Ryan on Reality Base, he would characterize this as the move from covert to overt wokeness, right? And that's like the whole thing about nudging your sensibilities, you know. And now, like, that there's experiencing the pushback, they're willing to go back to where it's covert, to act as though, you know, and because they want us all to, like, just go, oh, look at this, we won the day. You know, this is like when they changed genetic modification to gain of function research. It's the exact same shit. They're just calling it something else, you know. So yeah, like we always have to keep our eyes open for this, because that is what's happening. Is like, you know, they push it slightly until they just run over you.
Right, and it starts when people forget that there is a difference between, like, that there is a reason why the stories that these people would call boring or predictable or black and white or whatever, there's a reason why they still appeal to us. Right, like, no matter how old they are. Like, could you imagine, like, they already did it, like Rings of Power, like I already said. With Rings of Power, they were like, let's make the orcs sympathetic. Okay, now what? Like, where could you go from there? Now you can't, like, you know, when now you're gonna see it changes how you view the characters in the movies if you accept the premise that they've set. Like, when Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas are, like, hunting orcs, you're like, oh man, that's somebody's father. Right. Like, that changes everything. No, they are monsters that are, like, just pure evil, and they were like
designed for battle. That's all. They don't even care. They don't care about their own names. They don't care about anybody around them.
They don't even care about each other. They will kill each other
and like, eat each other.
Yeah, that's the point. They're like they're supposed to be, you know, essentially volatile, self-destructive tools. That's it. They're tools of evil. And when they gave them families and children, that completely undercut everything. And you'll be like, well, that's just fiction, whatever. Sure, you can make up whatever you want to, but it doesn't mean that it ceases to have an effect on how we act in the world. Like, why do people care about stories?
Right.
Why do we care about stories? When they
put stuff like that in Lord of the Rings, they are damaging the purpose of the message that was put in there by Tolkien. And they're making it something else. They're subverting the narrative, and that is narrative design for all intents and purposes, is to go and undermine the creativity behind it and have it be reflective of this top-down control state that wants to, you know, basically undermine your freedoms, undermine your civil liberties, and make sure that you feel as though you're equally worthless. You know, it's complete and utter. You know, like they don't want people to be heroic. They don't want people to actually think for themselves. They want them to, like, you know, exist in their fields and you know, give everything, like, you know, this kind of like equal measure of, it's like, oh, well, you know, clearly I must be the bad guy because this person has wronged me, and so I must have done something. I'm guilty for something, or my ancestors were, and so I'm paying reparations by, like, you know, allowing them to do this thing over me. And if I try to fight against it, that somehow just means that I'm institutionalizing all this stuff against them. It's such a fucking bullshit power play, you know, that's just meant to pull on your heartstrings, because, you know, the brain is not the heart. And if you allow your heart to lead you everywhere, like, it's the whole thing about, like, wisdom and nostalgia that we were just talking about, right? So wisdom is discernment, you know, your heart is nostalgic, you know. And so, like, it's good to have a measure of these things, but you can't just, like, live by your heartstrings, because if you live by your heartstrings, you'll be led along and you'll just become, like, dumbstruck by the quote unquote love, and the thing that you might be in love with might not actually love you back, but it's willing to utilize you and turn you into a simpering idiot for its own ends.
Yeah. Dean Domino in the chat says commies keep seething at the Frieran anime. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because the demons are portrayed as straight up evil. Yeah, I keep hearing that about this show that where it's like a fantasy show, like a fantasy, it's like a fantasy series in anime, and the evil is evil in it. Like, that's what a novel concept. Like, where, that's another thing too. Like, where does it's so disenchanting That's another thing that I have an issue with when you do this. Like you disenchant the nature of evil when you work so hard to normalize it first and then moralize it afterwards, where it's like, no, actually it's good and you're evil. Like America wanting to like blow up hell is evil, is what they're saying. Can you imagine? And and actually demons are just like Muslim refugees. Like what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? But anyway, somebody else said, I want to highlight it really quick. Mr. YouTube says in Doom 2, sometimes the good demons will help you and shoot the other evil demons. Like, but are they helping you, or do they also hate the other demons? Because there's a difference. I don't know. I haven't played Doom 2 in a long time. If occasionally a demon kills another demon, it doesn't mean they're good. It might mean that they're just like it's like the orcs killing each other over like Frodo's shirt. It's not because they're good or care about him. It's because they hate everybody. You know? So anyway, infighting is best fighting. Yeah, that's right. All right. So let me there's one other thing. I'm going to end this Devil May Cry thing because I got another thing that's related to this as well. But the controversy hinges on adaptation choices. So the claim is that the series isn't actually canon, guys. This is basically like, you know, fan art of this. Inspired by an alternate timeline inspired by Devil May Cry 3. So come on, guys, it's not real until it is. Until they say, actually, this is canon now. This is the real thing. Purists argue that it strays too far from the game's focus on humanity's resilience and Dante's swaggering heroism, which is kind of like the central theme of Devil May Cry, by the way, is Dante. This is why when they went away from it, it didn't go over very well. Devil May Cry 4, I think, which I understand isn't bad, but like because it wasn't about Dante, it didn't do that well. The shift to demon sympathy narratives and anti-American satire, not really satire, paired with 2000s new metal vibes. Apparently it had Limp Bizkit and Evanescence in it. Woof. Date yourself, please. Feels to some like a forced reinterpretation rather than a faithful tribute. Critics on IMDb and X lament Dante's reduced depth. He's more quippy than complex. That's probably because they don't know who he is. And they kind of like see the surface level stuff. Yeah, they don't care. And Lady's edgy dialogue as tryhard, further fueling the sense of disconnect. Yeah, I heard they did Lady dirty in this too, which was actually my favorite Dante girl. There was like Trish, Lady, and there was a chick from the second game that really didn't go anywhere. And the chick from the fourth game, I don't even know her name. But like, yeah, Lady was the best of the Devil May Cry girls. Yet, the show's 92% Rotten Tomatoes score and 77 on Metacritic suggest broader appeal with praise for its animation and action. So it will make money. Defenders argue it's a fresh take meant to provoke, not replicate. Still, as of April 5th, the divide is clear. Fans wanted pizza-loving, demon-slaying Dante, not a socio-political treatise, and the debate rages on whether this Devil May Cry honors or undermines its roots. Just typical Netflix behavior. It's just like, why have I not had a Netflix account in like probably 10 years? Yeah, shit like this. As soon as they started making their own shows, it was downhill, man. I think it started with that Kevin Spacey show.
Oh,
House of Cards.
House of Cards, indeed. Yeah. I had Netflix for the longest time, and I too was just kind of like, yeah, no, this is the rot. This is the thing that I didn't want it to ever be. And and if I really want something from Netflix that somehow comes out that might be good, I know how to sail the seas. You know, I'm a pretty savvy sailor.
Oh yeah,
a swashbuckling pirate, if you will, yar. You know, so yeah.
We have our ways. Yeah,
indeed.
All right.
I only know the ways of the sea.
So I'm going to trigger the libs again with another story with my discontent. So let's move on to this. I meant to cover this before and I kept forgetting. So I wanted to like do it now. So you guys are aware of the Chronicles of Narnia, which is a very popular book series by C.S. Lewis, who was an atheist that converted to Christianity. And basically made it his life's missions to essentially like write stories that will, celebrate good and
condemn evil.
Yeah, condemn evil, right?
Yeah.
And actually he was so devoted to that even Tolkien said that he thinks that Lewis was a little bit too unnuanced.
A little on the nose about
Tolkien, but on the nose is But Tolkien was pretty like straightforward with his beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
He was an Anglican his whole life, I believe. But so C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia is getting an adaptation for Netflix again. This time brought by Greta Gerwig, who is known for Greta Gerwig, Barbie movie, Little Women, and Lady Bird. A very, very feminist woman. Okay. She is set to write and direct at least 2 films adapting C.S. Lewis's beloved fantasy series.
Oh no.
Yeah. Netflix secured the rights in 2018 to develop new projects based on all 7 Narnia books. So she's going to get money to do all of the books. With Gerwig joining in 2020. Oof. Her involvement was confirmed in 2023, and the first film is slated to begin production in late June of this year at Shepperton Studios in London, running through Christmas. The movie will get a 2-week global IMAX run over Thanksgiving 2026 before hitting Netflix in Christmas. The first film is widely expected to adapt The Magician's Nephew, the chronicle origin story of Narnia, rather than the more famous Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. So, like, they're doing it in order of the story, not necessarily in the order of the books as they release, because I believe The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the first book,
right?
In terms of which ones he wrote.
But it's told out of order, yeah.
Yeah, but he's telling it, in chronological order, which begins essentially with a prequel.
Right.
This prequel explores the creation of Narnia by Aslan and the origins of the wardrobe, aligning with casting rumors and producer hints. Netflix plans to adapt the books in chronological order, a shift from past adaptations focused on the sequence of publication. But here's where the controversy comes in. I don't know if you guys know about this, but casting rumors have stirred excitement and debate.
Oh, no.
So we're talking about casting Aslan, the godlike lion traditionally seen as male. Okay, so Aslan, they're saying, is going to be played by Meryl Streep.
Oh, good.
And yes, Meryl Streep.
Damn it. I mean, I don't even have a problem with her as an actress. And she's just getting paid to do a job, but that's some woke ass fuckery afoot.
Yeah. So what's the problem with this? If you've read the books, I looked into this a little bit, okay? I know there's more that's bad about this, but if you've read the books, I haven't read all of them, but I looked into some of the things that C.S. Lewis has said about his books, as well as some of the stuff that's in the book itself. So Aslan the lion is not just a magical lion that created Narnia.
Right.
Not even in the canon of the story. Now, obviously, people say, well, Aslan is essentially an allegory for Jesus Christ. Okay, he's not just an allegory in the book. He's not just that. Like C.S. Lewis wrote him as a version of Jesus himself that created Narnia. And there's a conversation between Aslan and one of the characters about that, where he says, I think he says to one of the girls in the story, go back to your world. There is like, I am also there, but I am different. Like I have a different appearance.
Right.
So
it's like the lion that lays down with the sheep rather than the wolf that would eat it,
Now, if you're not Christian, I would ask, do you think this is appropriate even from the perspective of fucking with somebody else's work? Like, I'm not going to say this is heresy and all of that.
Right.
I'm tempted to.
Well, there's a reason why Viola Davis can't be Iron Man, right. It's in the name, and like, it's a lion, not a lioness. And to go and just sit here and act like that's like just a point of, debate and in the detail, oh well, then we're gonna have like a really highly sought after award-winning, actress play the part.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to say that she's not good enough? No, I'm just saying this complete and utter miscast, and it's intentionally miscast so that you can undermine the actual substance of the story that you're doing your adaptation from. And so why are you doing that? Like what is so wrong about about actually showing people an adaptation of the thing that you would want them to buy the books for, and the this and the that, and what is this in service to? Because if it's not in service to the work, then it's in service to what? The message? Because that's clearly all that it can be. If you're not going to steward and shepherd the thing that you're actually, meant to bring to life in an adaptation, then what are you doing it for? Because if it's not to do that, then you're clearly just trying to be a profiteering, sleazeball who's trying to get something else over in a skin suit. And we're all tired of that.
Yeah. A Norwegian says in the chat, if you're going to make an adaptation, do it with the mindset Peter Jackson had for Lord of the Rings. Exactly. Like, I don't know if Peter Jackson, like what he would say about Tolkien's, spiritual views or religious views, but he loved the story. Right. And he probably, even if he was somebody who didn't like Christianity, he'd probably at least say, well, Tolkien tried really hard to tell a good story for his children. And that already is enough right there, right? So I'm not even saying like, oh, we need like a Catholic to make this movie.
No.
All I'm saying is that Greta Gerwig should have some kind of reverence for the material she's adapting. Like when Disney did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe back in the day, I was really excited for that because I always wanted to see like a good film adaptation of those. And I thought the first one was pretty good. I mean, it was like, it tried a little bit to be like Lord of the Rings, but it's not, because it's definitely like a slightly younger audience. But I thought it was pretty good anyway, and they really good casting choices. Tilda Swinton as the White Witch was awesome. Liam Neeson as Aslan was perfect. I mean, I thought it was well done. Unfortunately, it just didn't go anywhere. I don't know if it's because Disney didn't want to invest in it anymore. I think if they could have been as big, if not bigger, than like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but they just dropped the ball. And now Netflix is picking it up, and I think they're going to do even worse. And here's another reason. So who is going to be playing the White Witch in this? Well, have you ever heard of a woman named Charlie XCX? Yeah. No, probably not, because you probably don't listen to modern music. She is a singer and songwriter that is popular right now, which is basically why she got the job.
Gotcha.
Charlie XCX is an English singer and songwriter who has done a lot of. She's a very active feminist, basically.
Right. Clearly, yes.
Yeah, she is, and a lot of her music is about like girl shit. So she's going to be playing the White Witch. And I think Daniel Craig is being eyed for a role. Who gives a shit? Sorry, but Daniel Craig hasn't been cool in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's a decent actor. So Gerwig's vision promises a fresh take. This is what she has said. She's going to be giving this a modern take. Producer Amy Pascal has teased it as a very new take on Narnia with a rock and roll vibe, hinting at a musical or stylistic edge, perhaps tied to Charlie XCX's involvement. Gerwig herself has called the project intimidating, citing reverence for its British roots and Lewis's Christian allegory. It's not really an allegory, it's pretty on the nose, which she aims to embrace with its paradoxes intact. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos has described it as bigger and bolder than past versions. So, why am I talking about this? Like, does anyone even really care about the Chronicles of Narnia? Well, I think that it speaks to a deeper problem that we're having with our stories. So, like, people don't. Well, let me rephrase that. Men and boys don't read books anymore. Women still do, And the reason is because there are no books. There isn't really any literature that appeals to men. Someone in the chat, Mr. YouTube, says, I never read Narnia. Exactly.
Yeah.
So like it's not that the book wasn't for you as a child.
Have you seen that article about like the science fiction writers on the New York Times bestseller list for like the last 20 some odd years? There's not one white guy ever.
I heard about that. Yeah. Well, I've been talking about what was going on in literature for a while, like that there's almost no books for men. There's nothing being promoted for men or boys for that matter. So boys are not getting into reading. So boys are failing at reading, like period. They read manga and comic books, right? But that's not unfortunately comic books have gone to shit too. Yeah. And manga is all that's left, and that's fine if that's what you like. But like if you're not reading like the really important literary works of Western civilization, then you're not going to carry it. That's why they're doing adaptations of this stuff, because they do an adaptation of something boys aren't reading, and then they change shit, and then they make it like the new canon. So I have said many times, the reason why these people try to change the canon of your favorite stories and characters and franchises is because ultimately they want to change the canon of history itself.
Right.
And they will if you let them. They will, and it'll take time, but they will do it. And it starts with little things. It starts with things like making demons into refugees. It starts with things like casting Aslan as a woman and forgetting that Aslan is literally Jesus Christ in a lion form. And it's even in the Bible that way, like where, he leaves as the lamb and he returns as the lion. Like that's not an accident. Like C.S. Lewis was a lot of things. Subtle is not one of them. And they're just rewriting that. Okay. So like, everything they do when they change Star Wars, when they change the Marvel comics, and then a lot of this stuff starts early too. A lot of the stuff that they've done in the like sort of Marvel and DC canon, these are seeds that they planted in the books decades ago. And so when you call it out, they get to say, "Oh no, but that's canon because of this book from this year." You're a casual, you're filthy, right? Because you accepted it. So what we have to do is find ways to preserve our stories. We got to preserve them in some way so that we don't forget them, because that's what they want to do. This is not an accident. And so these little changes that you may not think matter, they do. Okay. Right. And it's ultimately about altering our history. And in many ways, they have altered our actual history.
Right.
Like in the academic.
He who controls the past controls the future. You know?
Like did you guys, anybody here that's watching, you guys know about what happened with JFK's assassination? And have you asked yourself, why is it we're learning this now?
Right.
Like, what about what happened with Charles Manson? And like, all of the shit with the CIA and MK Ultra and all these things that you're not supposed to ask questions about. Even like what happened with the vaccine, with COVID. Like,
how it's been exposed as a bioweapon and people will still,
They're rewriting the history now so that like in the future, you won't be able to recall it. And it's about control.
Yep.
So, Jesus Christ was not killed by the Romans. That's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway.
Right. Yes.
It was much to Pontius Pilate's regret. He had to do it. He was forced his hand. But anyway.
Mob rule, if you will.
Yes, mob rule. Exactly. So we're going to move on to the next story, but let us know what you guys think about this one. Do you have any final thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia thing?
I think we pretty much covered all the bases on it. I mean, it's like so many other things that have been ruined by people like Gerwig and her ilk, and we'll find another thing like this going down the line, but I think we hit the main points of what's important to talk about in it.
All right. So let's move on to the next story. Real quick, this was something I just kind of added on the last second. I have two more that are just last
it's all good. I don't have anything going on after this today, so.
I love Marvel Rivals. I think it's only been getting more and more fun. I understand that Vera Dark is also a big fan. of it. It's free to play. I haven't spent a dime, and I'm always looking for people to play with. Anyway, they recently announced that they're like all of the content, all the characters are free, so they just like sort of release them on a slower schedule. Generally, they make their money on people buying skins and the in-game currency, but I haven't spent a dime on any of it, and I've been having a lot of fun. And they have revealed Emma Frost as a new character that's coming out.
Yep.
And I want to get you guys a better picture of her in the game, because I think that this might be useful for context. So Emma Frost is coming as a Vanguard, and let's see, large. I'm just gonna get a nice big picture of her. Open image in new tab. Here we go. Boom. Looking like dummy thick.
Yeah.
And very attractive. And of course, I don't know why these people do. So I'm going to give it to the other side a little bit now. But Melanie Mac, for some reason, basically put Emma Frost on blast, saying that she is part of a gay drag queen psyop. She didn't really expand on this. She didn't elaborate at all.
I mean,
I would like to see some receipts. Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, that's what she said. But I don't see anything gay or drag queeny about this. All I see is thickness. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
yes, she's chill for China. Yes.
Yeah. She's a stomp on me, dommy, mommy kind of.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what she's supposed to be. And it's I don't know. I don't get it. I thought Melanie Mac was like, I mean, she was always kind of a prude, but I thought that she would like, if they had done this to like Lara Croft, she would like get all over it. But at the end of the day, like, you know, she's just another person that's trying to essentially shame men for liking attractive women.
Right.
So,
yeah. Melanie's not without her flaws, but that's not what we're here about. But that is, calling this trans, that's a bit of a reach.
Like, drag queen psyop. Well, because okay, so she's a Vanguard in the game. They're like the tanks, and they're usually bigger characters because that's sort of like they have to make them that way. So what they do is they made, because White Queen is like the second female. The other one is Penny Parker, who's in like a mech suit. So that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But she's like the second female character who is a Vanguard character, like a tank. And so what they had to do was make her a bit bigger than the other females, because the tanks are supposed to take up more space. She's like sharing. She's in there up there with Thor and the Thing and the Hulk, right?
Right.
So and Venom. So in order to make that work, they had to make her model bigger, but they found some ways to make it work that made sense. I gave her, like, you know, essentially her hitbox, which is like the area you can hit, is larger than the other characters, but she's also got like high heels, and so like that makes her look taller. So she's supposed to be like a big girl, right, in the game, but that doesn't mean she's a man. Like there's like there are tall women. Not at all. She's obviously a woman, and I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I get that there's a lot of subversion going on. I get that there's a lot of like people that are trying to, like, you know, make everything gay and trans and all that. But I don't think that there's enough evidence to condemn or accuse NetEase, who made this game, of doing that, because all of the female characters have been like this. They've all been banging.
I mean, I'd sooner argue the point that I often do, that China takes with one hand while giving with the other, but this is the hand that gives, not the hand that takes. You know? So like,
and as I've said, if you want to, you know, if you don't like the fact that China is doing well, then you're just going to have to make something better. It's the only way. You got to compete. Because you can't stop this game is made.
Compete, that means you have to not adhere to the DEI practices that China is ultimately behind pushing onto. You know, so it's a rough road, but you know, you gotta do what it takes to.
I mean, they're tipping the scales in their favor.
Yeah,
but
that's
ultimately you're the one that responds, like as a developer, as
it's kind of like the difference
content
as content creators. And this goes back to like the thing I mentioned at the beginning. We can be exploited by going along with the YouTube system that gives with one hand, takes with another, right? It gives certain people like all this kind of stuff, and you kind of want it. It seems desirable. But from a lot of creators like you and I, it takes our time, takes our effort, and we get very little in return. You know, whereas like on the equal playing field of ideas in this market space that is Rumble, you know, it's about us as creators and just about us thriving with our actual, like we're small businesses here, you know. And YouTube's like this big, giant, top-down, you know, conglomerate box store that it's Walmart. We're just a shop down the street, you know. So that's that. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is like if you want to make, as you're saying, as a game creator, by all means, please make a better game. You know, don't be what this is. But don't try to assume this is anything other than what it actually is. You know, like to go and muddy the waters that way only makes it look foolish and makes us seem like we're just looking for problems.
Yeah, and of course the usual suspects are calling this gooner bait as well.
Yeah, of
course. I mean, like, there's again, like you think that's going to stop people from playing the game? And if it was, and look, if the game wasn't fun to play, then none of this would have mattered anyway.
Right. Flow state is the main thing.
Yeah, that's like why people are playing ultimately. And this is just like, you know, bonus. So, yeah, I mean, you know, like this is like people are flipping out, and ultimately it doesn't matter because like this is going to make money. It's going to do well. Mr. YouTube says the Invisible Woman in Marvel Rivals is sexy too. Yes. Well, they all look good. Like the male characters do too. You know, they're all idealized because they're based on comic book characters, and the art for comic books was supposed to be idealized. So yes, Jay Viper says thick thighs save lives. Literally, they gave White Queen. This is the White Queen, Emma Frost.
Hey,
they gave her thighs jiggle physics. I'm not shitting you. I can show you the trailer later, but they made jiggle physics for the thighs. They know what they're doing. Okay. They know what they're doing. But anyway, yeah. So, you know, cope and seethe, guys. I mean, it is what it is. Like there's not much you can do about it. Here's one more image. This might be a good one too. And they're also going to be bringing Ultron, but I guess like we're not gonna find that to be a problem. Look at those. Look at those gams.
Yeah.
That's not a man.
No.
Anyway,
no. That is clearly anything, but a man. Like that is so woman. Like that's idealized to the max, but that is good, you know?
Yeah.
To call that drag queen is no.
Yep. All right. So
drag queens aren't that.
No. So anyway, let us know what you got. You got the Chun-Li legs. That's right. Big old milk.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Got the Chun-Li thighs. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on to one more, and then we're going to see if we can do some cake. So I think this is, because we covered that already. So this was another one I kept forgetting to like bring up, and I'm going to bring it up now.
No, that's fine.
Canadian developer warns Canadians to avoid the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. You could no longer expect to travel to the US and return safely. What are you talking about? But anyway, so a little bit about that. Raphael van Leyrop, the CEO of Hinterland Games, who developed The Long Dark, issued a warning to his fellow Canadian game developers to avoid the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, claiming Canadians cannot expect to travel to the US and return safely. This is what he wrote. This is a post from LinkedIn, okay? Important message for all of my Canadian game developer friends and colleagues. If you are attending GDC in San Fran next week, I beseech you to reconsider. You can no longer expect to travel to the US and return safely. Things are getting
not an
intense.
alarmist. Not an alarmist.
Not at all. Things are getting intense, and they're going to get worse before they get better. Do not put yourself in a position where you are unable to get back into Canada or where your Canadian citizenship is used against you. he continued. This is especially true if you have been supportive of any causes or express any values that run contrary to the tastes of the current administration in the U.S. If you have, wipe your phones and know your rights before you enter the U.S. Stay in touch with family and friends in Canada so they know where you are at all times. Or even better, just stay home. All GDC talks will be available in the vault, and most business transactions can be done over video calls, or better yet, you can just invite folks to visit you in Canada, he advised. We are generally nice and friendly as long as you don't threaten to annex our country. I'm sorry if this seems alarmist to you, but if it does, I would suggest you haven't been paying sufficient attention to the news or what is unfolding before your very eyes, he concluded. Please be careful.
Yeah.
He also added, okay, there's more. This is not alarmist though, guys, not alarmist.
No, not alarmist.
Also, if you are a game platform publisher or potential financier who has meetings with Canadian game developers, individuals, studios, or work for hire outfits at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco next week, the smart, humane, considerate, and business savvy thing to do right now would be to rebook those meetings post GDC and propose meeting those potential partners online or in Canada. Don't make them travel to you right now. End quote.
Right.
This is absolutely insane. What do you guys think about this? Go ahead, John. I'll give you the floor.
Well, I mean, I've read about this when it first happened, and of course, everybody knows I keep track of GDC like nobody else's business. But yeah, this is clearly somebody that is projecting kind of way of thinking, like like I'm not being an alarmist, but I need to sound the alarm here, so about all the things that are happening because I'm trying to help you out. I'm not trying, it's like seeing things that aren't there. Are things perfect? No, nothing's perfect. Are there things where it's like we'll see how it turns out in a little bit of time, and I'm keeping my eye on it. I don't adhere necessarily to any kind of political paradigms. I always tell people I don't know the shape of reality, but that's kind of irrelevant. It's how I choose to navigate myself through my life's journey that matters. And so, like these people that are so caught up in their fucking ideological mindsets, that they can't actually just understand that it's like if you're not anybody that's doing anything fucked up or out of pocket, you generally get by in life, even if it's a difficult, rough road, like you'll find your way. And that's, I mean, I haven't really worked for the last 4 years. I lived off my savings basically and tried to do this thing since I left Seattle and came back to the middle of America. And has it been easy? No, but do I get by? I always seem to kind of have what I need when I need it and everything like that. And so this is just propagating the fear, they want people to have for all that they sit here and say, I just want there to be light in the world. All right. So why are you bringing in all this fucking darkness? Why are you trying to make it about oh, the world is like the 1940s right now? And it's like, there are aspects of, of course, I talk about corporatist driven globalism all the time here, and everywhere. But, to say that you can't go and be part of your indoctrination party, which by all means, if you don't want to go there, cool. You're not missing out on much other than the local, the latest NPC fuckery download. And so, no love lost there to GEC, but this is clearly somebody that's trying to paint a picture based on their pre-existing point of view and their biases than actually, just wish people safe luck on their journeys and giving them, it's this nanny state mentality. We have to look out for everyone, so you can't do anything that you like because bad things may happen. Okay, well, bad things may happen. I could be as healthy as I, could ever try to be, eat the best food, all this and that. And if I'm not looking the right way when I, step out in the street, I get hit by a car. Life is difficult and strange and complex and beyond your control. This is somebody who's sitting here trying to push the narrative of a control state, even in the attempt to try to say that they're not. Well,
so why? So Canadians think that San Francisco is too right wing for them.
Right. That's that's what I mean.
San Francisco, guys. Have you been there?
Yeah, I lived in Oakland for a year.
And that Trump, by the way, and Trump and Vance are sitting in the White House looking at a bunch of surveillance screens and learning that there's going to be a GDC conference. And are they Canadian? Let them in, but don't let them leave.
Let them out. Right.
They can't get out. You have to stay here now while I buy your country and make it ours. Like, what are you thinking about? What is Canadians have I mean, my wife's Canadian and she can't stand her own country sometimes. They have lost their minds. Like, there's a small percentage of base Canadians. I mean, I know all of them, I think. But most of them have, because they're no, seriously, Viva Fry, who was this Canadian, he was Quebec based, so not just Canadian but French Canadian, which is way worse than just regular Canadian.
That's a hat on a hat of insanity.
Yeah, Quebec based guy, lived in Montreal. He was a lawyer, and he started asking questions about, I think it started with COVID stuff, and down the line, now he lives in Florida, and he's he's completely different. He's completely flipped on everything. He's I can't believe how naive I was. Canada is a lost cause, guys. Now, and I know Trump has been joking about making it the 51st state forever, and they're freaking out. It's just it's exactly the same as trolling your average woman on X, and then they lose their minds and cry harassment, and they want to get you banned. Canada's doing that. They're acting like a woman on social media and a man who said, KYS, or something, right? You're a bitch, you're ugly, whatever. You mad, bro? That, and they're losing their shit. Trump is trolling them, and they're flipping out, and they don't know how to handle it. So it's just kind of sad. I wish Trump was that based. Yeah, I know. I just he's just he's not. He's just normal. He's not crazy based. I wouldn't look. If anything, I would maybe make Canada a territory. Be we own you, but you don't get to vote.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico. I mean, Puerto Rico is fine. People complain, but I think it's better that way. I think Puerto Rico is in a better place. It needs to be there so we can have our military base there, so we can keep an eye on Cuba. That was the whole point. So that's why it's there. So anyway, okay, so that's it for that. We got 5 minutes. Let's look at some cake. So
there's a link to a Red Dead Redemption 3 trailer.
Yeah, don't click on that. That's not that's a lie.
I assumed that might be the case.
Yeah, don't believe the hype.
Yeah, I was like, you'd think that a Red Dead 3 trailer would be more known about. So thank you. But
I do have some breaking thing. Yeah. So okay, I give Disney a lot of shit, and rightfully so. But I don't know if this is gonna work out for them. But they did. I did like Tron. I love Tron, and there's a new Tron coming out, and they've just released a trailer. So I think I'll take a look at it.
Oh yeah,
not promising anything. Reznor, literally 5 minutes ago, but 55 minutes ago, this trailer came out.
I will likely get the soundtrack to this because
let's take a look.
Well, the Reznor and Atticus Ross are doing the music.
The last one, Tron Legacy, awesome soundtrack, Daft Punk, and they had a really good show. I think it was a series. I think it was called I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good.
I can't remember, but it was it was an animated series.
Yeah, an animated series that was pretty good. Okay, let's take a look.
Heading northbound. Unit 12, acknowledging dispatch. Already in pursuit.
We're watching your trailer on behalf of others. Oh, weird. Tron bikes in the real world?
Mm-hmm. Seems that way. Not.
I'm looking for something.
I mean, I like
this could be amazing, but I have a feeling they're gonna drop the ball. I'm just saying it should be. It should be.
Right. So I mean, I guess the idea of a human goes in the digital world, and a digital go into the human world.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I mean, the music's good. I'm gonna buy the music. This is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Yeah. And you know, Nine Inch Nails is like I have a $10,000 Nine Inch Nails collection. You know, my records.
Because there's no going back.
Okay, featuring original music by Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, and they're actually going by Nine Inch Nails on here rather than So that's even better, I guess. You know, because like normally he likes to separate Nine Inch Nails from his score work, and that's under Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So the fact they're calling this Nine Inch Nails, this is effectively, or maybe they're just doing that because they don't think that people will know who Trent Reznor is because we live in TikTok brain.
Who cares? I don't give a shit.
But yeah. Yeah.
Mr. YouTube says it's kind of a cyberpunk version of GTA 4. Yeah, if you've never seen okay, so I would say watch the original Tron if you've never seen it. It did come out like in 1980.
Yeah.
It was like one of the very first movies that used computer generated effects.
Rotoscoping and PC effects
and they did it on no budget, and it was more than anything kind of a weird little Alice in Wonderland story, not super deep. And then like many years later, they made Tron Legacy, which I think was awesome. A lot of people don't like it, but I love it. And it was definitely like one of those things that had a lot of potential after it was over. Like, oh, they could do so much more with this. That might be what this is, but it doesn't appear to have the same people involved, like the same characters. So 1982. Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry. I was like 1980 something. So 1982 is that. So like if you can, because some people, like especially young people, they can't watch old movies because they don't find the effects convincing because we didn't have the technology back then. But I think the original Tron and Tron Legacy are worth checking out, and the show. I think it's called Tron Uprising. I think that was the name of the series, familiar. Which was pretty cool too. Like they had some good ideas. The only thing is, I guess my only issue is that they didn't really quite bring them all together. There was also like a Tron game on PC that was very popular that came out before Tron Legacy. It was like on PC, but I can't remember what it was called. So it was an old PC game. Okay. We will look at some numbers. There was a trailer for a new From Software game. Let me just that was actually shown off at this Nintendo Direct thing. It's called Dusk Bloods. And I was making the joke. This is the time at night where the gangsters come out. You know, and in the morning you deal with the dawn. You deal with the dawn crips in the morning. But I'm a total simp for FromSoft, and I'm not going to buy a new console just to play this. So we'll see if maybe they release it.
They'll end up putting out like an Ultimate Edition or something at some point. Like there's a way to. I mean, it is what it is.
So I'm gonna look at this real quick, and then I'll look at the numbers for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I saw that Upper Echelon Gamers, it's a pretty big gaming channel on YouTube, made this giant, like they made this video. It's essentially a big cope video about Assassin's Creed Shadows, defending it from the chuds. And that he grew up and he realized it's not a bad game. He literally can't make people buy this product. Like there's nothing you can do. And 4 million players is not sales, guys.
No.
But you know,
there's a reason why they spend the numbers. We talked
one.
right. Or as I've been calling it, GTA South Park.
Yeah.
To humanity's very dusk.
It is. That's a pretty good comparison.
Yep.
Now let me bring up the while this is playing. I'll bring up the sales numbers. So let's go to Steam charts. And I'll put in a couple of figures here.
And this looks nice.
It does. It's got a steampunk thing going on.
Yeah, but I'm not going to buy a Nintendo.
No, I'm not going to buy a console for it, but it does look good.
Yeah, well, I can appreciate it.
Let me see. Let's see. Schedule 1. That looks fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's the moon from
Legend of Zelda, Mask of Majora,
yeah,
or something
Mask
like
of
that.
Majora,
Yeah.
The bad moon arises.
Let's see. Got the chat.
Close your eyes and contemplate now the moon, as befits the soon to depart.
I pray that you are able, carrier of blood.
Carrier of blood.
The moon tears will flow for one, and one alone.
All right, so that's the Dusk Bloods. It looks good, and I hear good things about it, but I mean, it's probably just not. I'm just probably not going to play it until much later when it's like sees a different release. That's okay. Yeah, if it comes to Steam, or if not, then maybe I'll get a chance to emulate it somehow. I just don't see the value in buying a console for one game. I've never been that way,
especially
so.
at this point in time where you're talking about $1,000 investment. I'm not paying $1,000 of this and that, or even $500. Just to have an experience. Like, and some people will be like, yeah, but this costs like a concert ticket. Yeah, I don't go to a lot of concerts anymore.
Yeah. That's also sad, isn't it? All right, let's look at some sales numbers, and then we're gonna wrap it up here. So first, we'll start with Marvel Rivals, since we were looking at it. So still 144,000 players, not bad. And it looks like let's look at the charts here. So it's sort of like, I think that because we're starting another season 2 starts like next week, there's gonna be a big spike and a lot of people playing White Queen when she launches, and they're going to change a bunch of stuff in the game as well. So they are trying to keep things very fresh. They're constantly adding content, skins, events, tournaments, all kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, Dustborn has 8 people playing it. I just
one of them is Ryan Roger Athay.
I want to check in on this. What's up?
When we get done, someone dropped a 50
one of
pound.
Them is
one of them is actually Ryan. Like he's going because somebody dropped a 50-pound donation on him at the end of his stream earlier in the week, and he had a $50 goal. Said he would play it this weekend and so
sweet. Sweet. All right, let's see how many players Assassin's Creed Shadows has. 27,000. Wait, I was told it was 4 million.
Right.
I was told that only console sales mattered. Looks like it peaked. It peaked
that bell curve, and it's
1,000.
Yeah, because and the weekend day today. If you can slide down to it just one more time to the line, like you see how it had its first weekend, and then by the time it hit Monday that week, we're down to.
Here's the peak max over
right.
So.
And but that's what I'm saying is like by the time I said on Will's show when it came out, I was like, by Monday this game is done, and you're going to see it just keep cycling downward. You'll see that same undulating kind of time scale, and it's just going to keep getting lower and lower, and that's exactly what's happening. And so the weekend time is supposed to be its peak time, and its peak time is now just above what was the peak of last week on Monday. It's not good. It's not good for business. It's done. Which is why Ubisoft, when I made last week's thumbnail, was at $12, and now it's under 10. It was around 8 when it was trading at points yesterday. I don't know where it ended up, but yeah. And that's some interesting fuckery. If people want to learn more about, you should go check out Will of the Fans from earlier this week. We got into some of the stuff about what's going on with the stockholders and them suing for the sale to the subsidiary that Tencent and Ubisoft are planning on making, because it seems like they're doing a pump and dump scheme on everybody, and so they're demanding a change. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent.
That's all right. So that's okay. So somebody asked me, and I was going to do this anyway because David Jaffe's been coping and seething about Assassin's Creed Shadows, and like, oh, it didn't do that bad. No, it's doing bad. Like and we're gonna look at some smaller games that are doing a lot better in a second. But let's look at South of Midnight, because this is another one that he was defending like hardcore.
Kim Bel-Air.
Oh, you have to like this because otherwise you're racist. Well, let's see how many racists are. It looks like a lot of people are racist because the game has only got 389 people playing it.
Yep.
And
this is what happens when you put Kim Bel-Air in your games.
Yeah. 97% of the 96 user reviews. So there's like 96 user reviews. And it peaked at 481. So it's not doing that hot. Like this looks high up, but that's because the max is not that high. So
but IGN rated this an 8, guys. They rated it an 8 by somebody who asked to do the review,
Oh, man. I mean, I knew this game was dead in the water just because of like it essentially just isn't made for anybody.
No.
Not there are more, like, not even black people are playing this game. Like, that's the thing that I think, like, I bet most of the people who are playing this are just like woke POCs and white people. That's basically what's playing this game. And game journalists. That might be all game journalists, basically. And people who are clowning on it for a playthrough. So all right, anyway. So we got our lesbian power fantasy and our gay black samurai fantasy, Assassin's Creed Shadows I Can't Breathe edition. And then we got Schedule 1, which is at 308,000 people, made by one guy.
Yep.
One guy made this game.
It sounds like he's planning on using all of his profits to assemble a team, a punk rock band of game developers, if you will. Which is all you need.
Yeah.
5, maybe 6 guys at most. That's it. The bigger it gets, the more these things get out of your hands, and the more it becomes about, oh, well, I guess we need to follow this design principle. We need to do that. I'm glad I went to art school just like you. I like having my foundational knowledge on some of this stuff, but some of this stuff you just got to go by, like, the seat of your ass. You got to come from the balls, so to speak. And actually just like shoot your shot and do the thing. And there's a lot of people that are successful here in this space. Didn't go to art school, and they make really good thumbnails because they're just like, they're capturing their creativity and they're putting themselves forward. So I tend to think that having artistic passion driving something forward with your talent, skill, and ability, and keeping your integrity and focus is always going to be a far better outcome in terms of profitability than any of these top-down control state games. And this is another success. Every year, there's at least something that comes out that just kind of like, whoa, where did this come from? Wasn't last year Balatro?
Yeah, Balatro, yeah. You never know. So, look, here's like the top games. Like Dota and Counter-Strike are always going to be way up there. But look at Monster Hunter Wilds. If you can, like, people who can't even run this game are playing it. Schedule 1. Path of Exile, Repo, which I just picked up. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Rust has been around for a long time.
Yeah, Rust has been around for a long time. But like even some of the newer ones, where's Assassin's Creed Shadows at? It's not even up here. Dead by Daylight is been around forever. DayZ,
DayZ, I enjoy.
GTA 5 still is like in the top 22. Helldivers, okay. Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk 2077. Not bad for a single-player game, honestly, because mostly the multiplayer ones are the ones that are going to stay up here. Total War, Warhammer 3, Destiny 2, Soundpad, I guess. I got rid of it. Yep, Skyrim, 7 Days to Die, Don't Starve Together, Ark, but no sign of Ubislop or
Lost.
Yeah,
and gone.
we
you know?
lost. Anyway, all-time peak for Schedule 1 is 414,000. Yeah, Schedule 1 is a very good-looking game. I mean, like, not attractive, like, in terms of graphics. But it's like, there's got to be some crazy appeal. I played the demo. I actually, like, tried to make a video playing the demo. I ran out of money, but so I stopped playing for a bit. But I understand that it's very addictive, and if you've watched, like, you know, Breaking Bad, it's got Breaking Bad vibes all over it. So it's like an open world Breaking Bad simulator. I'm on the fence about whether or not I think it's degenerate to play a drug dealer simulator, but it does look funny and it has multiplayer in it. So I think that's a very massive accomplishment for the guy who made this game. So we will see how it goes. We'll probably follow up as more things develop. But anyway, I really got to end the show here. We've gone a little bit over time. So
it was a great show today, though.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I just want to mention again that they have begun the It's Based game jam. The theme is Red Planet. That could mean Mars. It doesn't have to, but I think it should. And I will see what they come up with. You know, I'm actually quite interested in where they go with it. So, you know, follow them. It's Based Game Jam. It's Based official on Rumble now. They are on Rumble as well. And on YouTube. So check out the It's Based Game Jam.
This weekend I'm actually going to have a little bit of time off. Toasty wants to have today off, and then because she's just kind of like, you know, it's been a hectic 2 weeks to say the least. We streamed every day for like 2.5, or I streamed every day for like 2.5 weeks until I finally got a break on Wednesday. So gonna just be working on some stuff today, like, you know, other artwork stuff that I do, and then tomorrow Toasty and Ryan, who I mentioned, they're both going to be on a Sammy 3-piece show, so I'm not going to be on with Toasty tomorrow. We will be doing a Monday cosplay special instead, and so tomorrow you can find me over on Will of the Fans' channel, doing what I affectionately call White Time Friends. We do that at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific here stateside because he's in the Philippines. But yeah, other than that, you can see me throughout the week, always with Toasty, you know, kind of like check nightly, but we're usually doing stuff. We start 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and that could be basically any day of the week to keep an eye out for. And then reality based, I'm only doing reality based on Fridays now, which is the lead in to Toasty and I on our Friday night. And I dropped a link in the chat. I've pretty much moved over here to Rumble entirely. Is the way that I'm going forward. I'm not even really concerned about telling people to sub to my YouTube or anything like that, because I would much rather just be profitable now and allow, like, you know, my ability to kind of get big be based on my own creativity. And so like I said, other than that, also Will of the Fans, we do Tuesdays and Thursdays as well as the Sunday, and that's always at the same time. So thanks again. You know, it's always great being here on the show, and to everyone who joined us today in the audience, both on YouTube and especially in Rumble. We even had a bigger audience in Rumble for the majority of the show. Yeah, which was awesome. But to all of you, I say, you know, safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful weekend going forward, and be awesome as always.
All right. Well, thanks, John, for coming on the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, to the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And we will talk to you guys in the next video. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. Yeah! And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. physically, bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.